The vast majority of Canadians and 100% of middle class are paying higher carbon tax, and his last round of small business tax hikes hit plumbers and electricians, not the rich. Why is it that every time he mentions the middle class, they get poor?
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Yesterday in question period, the Conservatives unleashed their attacks on the capital gains cash grab, aka the tax that Freeland took out of the budget for the express reason to try and hit the Conservatives over the head with it and prove to everyone that they only support the rich elite. Yeah, let's see how well that worked out.
Let's take a look.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
9 years ago, the Prime Minister promised he could spend uncontrollably and there'd be a rich guy on a hill somewhere who would pay the bill. Yep. The middle class wouldn't have to pay. Well, what is the result? According to him, the total net worth of the richest Canadians has doubled since he took office. Meanwhile, 9 in 10 middle-class Canadians are paying more tax. Housing costs have doubled, so 76% of middle-class youth believe they'll never afford a home. 2 million people line up at a food bank because they can't afford to eat on a middle-class salary. Given that he already broke this exact same promise over 9 years, why should we believe him this time?
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You know what's amazing about Pierre is his prep that he must do for question period. When we were chatting with some of the people that we met in Ottawa during our trip, it was fascinating because one of the people was saying to us that before question period, nobody can bother Pierre. He won't take, visitors. He won't take people saying, "Oh, can I come and see Pierre?" And even the other MPs leave him alone. And it's because he is like literally preparing himself almost for battle. And he's just getting in the zone, focusing, and understandably trying to make sure he has his facts and figures straight because he knows he's going to need them momentarily. And it's not easy to stand up, be on camera, have 340 some odd people staring at you, and
plus everybody in the gallery.
Yeah, and everybody on TV.
That's right.
And you need to be perfect, right? So, the fact that he can just rattle these off, there's extreme prep work behind that. And that just shows the dedication that he has. And remember, he uses no notes. It's only very rarely that he does that. And even when he does it, he's usually quoting something. So he's reading it so he makes sure he gets the quote right. But, it's just remarkable understanding the prep work that he goes through now after speaking to some of these people in Ottawa. So just a bit of extra, I would say, factoids there.
Mr. Speaker, if it didn't have real-world impacts on Canadians, it would almost be amusing to watch the Conservative leader tie himself in knots to try and justify voting in favor of advantages for the wealthy Canadians when they sell really profitable investments. We're asking them to pay a little bit more so we can invest more in housing for young people to be able to have the same kinds of opportunities previous generations did. We're delivering dental care for over 200,000 seniors in just the last 6 weeks. We're delivering more spaces in childcare. We're stepping up for Canadians. They're stepping up for the rich.
And here it is, folks. This is the narrative that Trudeau and the Liberals have been waiting to be able to play. So, the narrative is basically, we put in all of these programs that nobody asked for, and we need to find a way to pay for it, so now we're going to tax the crap out of you.
Well, that's not what they're telling Canadians, though. What they're telling Canadians, though, is we're investing in Canadians, and we believe in tax fairness for all generations. That's what the narrative that they're trying to spin. The reality is what you said.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Real world impacts. Yep. That's what we have today after 9 years of this Prime Minister promising to tax, borrow, and spend us into fairness. But according to the StatsCan data he put out himself since he became Prime Minister, the net worth of the wealthiest Canadians has doubled. Why? Because the taxes he puts always land on the middle class. 9 in 10 middle class people are paying higher taxes. The vast majority of Canadians and 100% of middle class are paying higher carbon tax, and his last round of small business tax hikes hit plumbers and electricians, not the rich. Why is it that every time he mentions the middle class, they get poor?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Rule number 1 when arguing with a Liberal. Bring your facts, because they'll just bring feelings.
Mr. Speaker, our price on pollution delivers more money to 8 out of 10 Canadians right across the country with the Canada Carbon Rebate. And today, Mr. Speaker, there's an opportunity for everyone in this House to stand up and ask the wealthiest Canadians to pay a little more when they sell extremely profitable investments. We are doing that on this side of the House. The Conservatives will be protecting the advantage that is there for the wealthiest Canadians while we invest more in housing, while we invest more in dental care, while we invest more in Canadians who need it.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, if you are a small business owner, you have even $1 of investment gain, you pay this higher tax that the Prime Minister is promising, because there's no exemption inside the 300,000 small businesses. And it's incredible that during a housing shortage, he wants to tax home builders. During a healthcare shortage, he wants to tax away our doctors. During a food price crisis, he wants to tax our farmers. And while our economy is shrinking more than any other economy in the G7, he wants to tax our small business job creators. Mr. Speaker, isn't this the definition of insanity?
Pierre brings receipts, man. He's just spitting facts, and all of this, this isn't new. The brilliant strategy that the Conservatives have actually employed here is they didn't need to go looking for all of this information, because they just waited for for the actual economic sector to rise up and oppose the Liberals on this. And this is what small business owners are concerned about. This is what regular Canadians with a rental property, that maybe, regular Canadians that are going to inherit a property, regular Canadians that bought an investment property a while ago, maybe during the Harper years when housing was affordable, this is what they've been saying. This is what the doctors have been saying. So they actually haven't needed to go hunting for this. All of this is just readily available now. And they are just aggregating it and throwing it all in Trudeau's face all at once. And it's all true. And
these are legitimate concerns. These are legitimate concerns that are going to affect everyday Canadians and everyday small Canadian businesses.
And our GDP is going down, meaning the strength of the Canadian economy is going down. The last thing you're supposed to do is add taxes to businesses and entrepreneurs and anything that is actually going to incentivize economic growth. This is the opposite of what he should be doing.
I can't wait until the Conservatives can form government, and then they can axe this tax too.
For 8 weeks since we put our budget forward, the Conservatives have been incredibly careful not to say a thing about the capital gains rate that we're raising. They didn't want to talk about it for 2 full months, and today, when they are choosing to vote with the wealthiest Canadians and against young Canadians who need more housing, young Canadians who need a better break, seniors who need dental care, they're all trying to spin it in 9 different ways. The reality is they have an opportunity to vote with middle-class Canadians, and they're choosing to vote against them.
The Conservatives are the only party standing up for middle-class Canadians.
Let me translate what Trudeau said. Boo-hoo, McConnell. The Conservatives didn't take our bait when we put it out there for them in the budget, so we actually had to take it out of the budget to force them to talk about it, because they were choosing not to, and we wanted them to talk about this. And we took out this tax measure as, just to use as a sledgehammer on the Conservatives, and it's actually coming off as one of those, inflatable squeak toys.
But don't forget, the Liberals, including Chrystia Freeland, are going all over mainstream media telling everybody that it's not an attack on the Conservatives. It's nonpartisan.
Well, and let's see what the mainstream media is actually saying about this. This is from the Globe and Mail, so it is not from the Toronto Sun. It is not from the National Post, which lean conservative, okay? Headline, Freeland's futile capital gains gambit to embarrass the Conservatives. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland appears to be attempting to embarrass Pierre Poilievre by forcing the Conservative leader to vote against a new tax on the rich. This is wrong. Fiscal policy should not be used as a cudgel against political opponents. More important, the tax itself is unsound. The Conservatives should not hesitate to vote against this. The tax, which raises the inclusion rate, the proportion subject to tax, for individuals realizing more than $250,000 in capital gains annually, is part of this year's budget. But Ms. Freeland introduced it separately Monday through a Ways and Means motion. This means the Conservatives will either have to vote for it, contradicting their anti-tax principles, or against it, in which case the Liberals will accuse them of being in the pocket of the wealthy. That's what's happening. The Liberals have attached enormous political significance to the tax increase. Ms. Freeland went so far Sunday as to declare that without expanded social programs paid for through higher taxes on the rich, Canada faced a dystopian future in which children arrived hungry at school and teenage girls became pregnant because they could not afford contraception, while the wealthy sheltered behind ever higher walls protecting them from the wrath of the populace. If Canada were in such a precarious state, it would offer a terrible indictment of her government's legacy after 8 years and 7 months in office. Fortunately, the situation is less fraught than that, though it's certainly true that things are not going well.
Well, that's exactly what Vashi said.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
The finance minister is about to impose another job-killing, wage-cutting, price-hiking tax on Canadians, and she wants us to believe the latest fairy tale that somehow we'll all be better off if the prime minister just raises taxes again. We've heard this for 9 years. Let's take a look at the result. Canada is on track for the worst decline in living standards in 4 decades. 9 out of 10 middle-class families now pay more in income taxes, and Stats Canada says that Liberal policies since 2015 have cost Canadians $4,200 in lost wages per worker. They've made the middle class worse off with their last 8 budgets. Why should anyone believe that the 9th time is the charm?
The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, for the past 8 weeks, we have watched the unedifying spectacle of the Conservatives squiggling and squirming, deflecting and evading. But today they have no choice. Today they had to pick a side. And we're seeing now the side that they have chosen. The Conservatives are coming out against fairness. They think a nurse or a plumber should pay tax at a higher rate than a multimillionaire. Canadians are watching. Canadians now see whose side the Conservatives are on.
We sure do.
Yeah, they're on our side, Freeland.
They're on the side of the average Canadian. They're on the side of the Canadians that are actually looking for work. They're on the side of the Canadians looking for work during the unemployment rate going up because you keep bringing more people into this country that the country can actually support. And this tax is actually going to stagnate job growth even more.
They're on the side of Canadians who are having to use the food bank for the first time. 20% of Canadians, 1 in 5, has had to use the food bank in the past year. Many of those were first-timers.
So you're asking which side the Conservatives are on? They're on the side of the middle class and every other Canadian other than the rich elite, and they're standing between them and your government, which is exactly where they should be.